In the headlines, DSS interrogates suspended EFCC chairman Abdulrashid Bawa. Police seals 17 local government secretariats in Plateau State over leadership tussle. Benue village dwellers lament lack of healthcare and high mortality rate. On the foreign scene, Sudan's western cities under fire as two-month-old war spreads. Hello and welcome to Trust News Update. I am Abdullahi Ahmed. We start the news update in Abuja, where the suspended Economic and Financial Crimes Commission Chairman Abdulrashid Bawa is answering questions at the Department of State Services. Bawa, who is reportedly in the custody of the secret police, arrived at the headquarters of DSS on Thursday. A source said he was already being grilled at their facility, popularly called Yellow House, over his activities when he held sway as chairman of the EFCC. He said the embattled anti-graft czar would undergo interrogations from the operatives of the secret police. DSS spokesperson Peter Afunaya, who confirmed Bawa's presence at the facility, explained his invitation bordered on some investigations being carried out on the activities of the commission. Still staying with that story, following the suspension of the chairman of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, Chairman Abdulrashid Bawa, the Director of Operations at the agency, Abdul Karim Chukol, is expected to take over the affairs and act in capacity. A statement signed by the Director of Information in the Office of the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Willie Bassi, had directed Bawa to hand over to the Director of Operations at the Commission. Checks by Daily Trust show that Abdul Karim Chukol, a principal detective and investigator at the Commission, would be at the helm of affairs pending when another substantive head of the anti-graft agency is appointed. Chukol holds Bachelor of Science degree from University of Maiduguri in 2000 and subsequently pursued his postgraduate diploma in criminal justice education from the University of Virginia in the United States in 2011. The detective, who joined the EFCC in 2003 and rose through the ranks to become principal detective and the director of operations, also has a diploma in cybersecurity and spectrum monitoring. Now, the Nigerian House of Representatives on Wednesday has called for active measures by the federal government to mitigate the effects of flooding in the country this year. The motion was brought to the floor of the House at plenary by former Speaker Femi Gbajabiamila on the need for the federal government to proactively put measures in place by giving palliatives to prevent the worst socioeconomic consequences for Nigerians in the affected areas. The House also called on the federal government to urgently implement palliative measures to mitigate the effects of fuel subsidy removal. The resignation of Mr. Femi Gbajabiamila as member of the 10th National Assembly was also read by the Speaker of the House, Tajuddin Abbas.
Aware that Nigeria is yet to recover from the 2022 flood, which affected more than 4 million Nigerians, displaced over 2 million people, caused the death of 665 people, damaged about 355,986 houses, and destroyed an estimated total of 944,989 hectares of farmland. The House is also aware that the experience of the 2022 flood caused the federal government of Nigeria to constitute a presidential committee to develop a comprehensive plan of action for preventing flood disasters in Nigeria.
We are aware of a presidential directive to put palliative measures in place to ameliorate the impact of subsidy removals on Nigerians, worried that the federal government is yet to provide palliative measures to mitigate the impact of the subsidy removal on federal government workers. Also worried that since the removal of the subsidy, several protests have been recorded as citizens accuse the government of being insensitive to their needs. Cognizance of the need to put in place measures to protect the right of citizens and prioritize the provision of palliatives.
I thank all those who in various ways have made my time in the House memorable and productive. I especially thank my colleagues in the 9th House of Representatives for electing me as their Speaker and supporting me throughout my time in office. May God bless and keep you all.
Well, the police on Wednesday say 144 people have so far been rescued in the boat accident that occurred in Patagi local government area of Kwara State on Tuesday. The boat conveying wedding guests from a village capsized, and the police say they are now confirming 103 people dying from the incident on Tuesday night, but updated the casualty figures to 106. In a statement, the command's spokesperson Ajayi Okosami said 144 persons have so far been rescued in the incident. According to him, the boat reportedly conveying about 250 people from Boti village after a wedding ceremony to Ebu and Zakan, all within Patigi local government area of the state. Part of the boat engine collapsed, letting in water. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has expressed sadness over the boat mishap. The President's commiseration was contained in a statement on Wednesday by the Director of Information, Abiodun Oladunjoye. President Tinubu promised that his administration would look into the challenges of inland water transportation in the country to ensure the matter of safety and operational standards are strictly adhered to, adding that the immediate relief and necessary assistance should also be provided to survivors and families of the victims. Now, as important as hospitals are, most villages in Benue State have no first aid clinics to attend to the sick. As a result, government, civil society organizations, and individuals have so much to do in mitigating the deficits in public health management. Jimmy Azande visited one of such villages and now reports.
For those who do not have first-hand experience, it is like a fairy tale about the lack of health facilities in the villages. In Fada, an isolated village in Guma, local government area of Benue State, the community health extension worker appears to be the only option.
So I learned that these people are having problem of this hospital or something. So I came here. My problem is I'm controlling a lot of problems, like transportation to get drugs. Right now I'm from a Lebolo. A woman came and drove her here. Our problem is we don't get the drugs available here very quick, and where to get them is very difficult because of the condition of the road. So that's our major problem here.
Due to
hospitals that were government-owned no longer exist. We are going through terrible times in this village. Looks like we do not have a government anymore. This is actually not good enough. Many who spoke lamented that mortality rate is high in the village because of the lack of health facilities. They said it wasn't the situation. The rains have cut out the villagers from neighboring communities because of poor road networks.
To go where we used to go and buy drugs, as it is this during this rainy season now, we used to have a lot of problems. So government should see to that. And government should come. They say it is government that say we should take her to grassroots. So the problem is to get drugs and the load. That is our major problem here.
So if the government knows that we are a people, this is the right time for them to come to our aid and make sure that our pains are eradicated. Our people need a life. Our people need to transport. They need to go out to the environment and interact with other people like normal human beings. So the government really needs to come to our aid. Otherwise, the sufferings are too much.
Sad as it is, a baby was delivered as at the time of this report, and the community health extension worker said there were no drugs nor means to travel out to get some.
The Inspector General of Police, Usman Babalak Ali, has ordered the sealing of all the 17 local government area secretariats in Plateau State. The Plateau State Commissioner of Police, Bartholomew Onyeka, disclosed this on Thursday in a statement signed by the Police Public Relations Officer in the state, Alabo Alfred. The statement says the action was to prevent the breakdown of law and order following tension that arose over the appointment of new leadership in the affected council areas by the state governor, Caleb Mutfwang. The statement further says the decision is in accordance with the exercise of constitutional responsibility of the Nigerian police. The command says that it will not take it lightly with anyone who tries to cause any confusion around the local government secretariats in Plateau State. Frivolous lawsuits are now punishable by heavy fines, as recent court pronouncements have shown. Abdurrahman Umar speaks to some legal practitioners in Abuja on fines slammed on lawyers for filing cases viewed as frivolous and unnecessary. His report.
A senior lawyer, an immediate past Minister of State for Labour and Employment, Festus Keyamo, was slammed with a fine of 10 million naira for what a federal high court calls a frivolous suit against former Vice President Atiku Abubakar. What this means to the legal profession, a senior advocate of Nigeria, Tanimu Inua, says it amounts to abuse of court processes and obstruction of the cause of natural justice for lawyers to institute lawsuits deemed to be frivolous, vexatious or unnecessary.
Unfortunately, we are taking the provision of the Constitution of Fair Hearing too far. We are taking it for granted. I was sometimes in England, one of the lawyers are telling me that if you file a matter, the judge will tell you, no, you don't have a case, withdraw it. But here, if a judge tells you that you don't have a case, withdraw it, you see that the petitions going to the NJC that the judge has taken into descended to the arena.
Folarin Aluko, an Abuja-based legal practitioner, said there is no justification for any legal practitioner who is a minister in the Temple of Justice to be involved in an act that could bring the legal profession to public ridicule.
It is unprofessional for a lawyer to take a case, to undertake to file an action, knowing fully well that action is frivolous or that there is not enough, the elements of that case are not sufficient or do not even exist.
Not only lawyers are susceptible to frivolous lawsuit, a fine of 40 million naira was also imposed on former presidential candidate by the Court of Appeal in Abuja for filing frivolous suit to stop the inauguration of President Bola Tinubu last month. Tunji Abayomi believes that such huge fine is meant to regulate the attitude of those involved in the legal practice in the country.
The courts will regulate the appetite of lawyers for mischief. That's the point I'm making. You understand what? Ultimately, in the process of imposing fine and disciplining them, they will begin to retreat from just taking just any case.
The legal practitioners are unanimous that the fines imposed on frivolous lawsuit will only strengthen judicial system and guide lawyers on whether there is legal grounds to pursue a case or otherwise. Abdurrahman Umar, Trust TV News, Abuja.
In other news, the federal government has made some clarifications on the provisions of student loans recently signed into law by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. The Permanent Secretary, Federal Ministry of Education, Andrew David Adejo, told newsmen on Wednesday that the act is to provide increased literacy level in the country. The Students' Loan Act is said to not only cater for tuition fees alone, but can be accessed by indigent students in public and private institutions across the country to reduce the financial burden on institutions and individuals. The Permanent Secretary was, however, silent on whether tuition fees will be introduced in public universities.
Let us wait to see the acts. And you get the acts when it is transmitted to the Ministry of Justice to produce into a gazette. Ministerial committee finish their work, then they will come out with what they call an operational manual, which will not be different from industry standards of a bank system. But knowing that this is an interest-free loan, knowing that this bank will not only be concerned with student loans, it will perform other banking operations. And in the loan, there are features that the university, you are not applying through, even if it's going to be electronic, you are not applying directly as you apply on site for the scholarship. You are applying through your school. And we should be able to give the schools some benefit of that yes, they should be able to tell us who is indigent and who is not indigent, who is their student and who is not. So they will now, the process will be from the school. That is what the Act contains. But like I said, the operational manuals, the procedures that will be developed for this National Nigerian Education Bank will be able to capture all this. So I think where I sit, I have some comfort that it will be depoliticized.
You're watching the news update on Trust TV. Still to come, we take a look at job loss fears in motor parks. Join us after the break for more news. Welcome back and thank you very much for staying with us on News Update on Trust TV. First, a recap of our headlines at this hour. DSS interrogates suspended EFCC Chairman Abdurrashid Bawa. Police seal 17 local government secretariats in Plateau State over leadership tussle. Now, commercial vehicle drivers in Adamawa State have expressed fears that the fuel subsidy removal, which has forced transportation fares hike across the country, may in the long run render them jobless. Here's Salis Lawan with a situation report.
The hardship have increased at least from 60 to 95% now.
Since the pronouncement of the removal of fuel subsidy last month, transport have gone up in Adamawa State. Some commercial drivers at the Paluja Motor Park in Jamaica, while speaking on the hardship caused by the fuel subsidy removal, made passionate appeal for measure to ease their sufferings.
Even some drivers, they are losing their work because there's no money to buy fuel. Even you can buy fuel, where are you carrying them to? Bible. So people are now staying for house, and therefore government can accept at least. You have to drop it down small.
Before they remove this subsidy, we are carrying from here to Jalingo is 2,005, Gombe 3,000, Mubi we are carrying 3,000, Fufore 500, Green 700 naira. But now as they remove the subsidy, passenger they are not available because of increase of the fuel. Now the thing we are carrying from here to Jalingo is 3,005, Gombe is 4,000. So we are begging for federal government to look at the matter, to even if they can return the subsidy matter is more better.
Passengers are also taking the heat of the subsidy removal as they express divergent views.
Yes, in terms of the fuel increment due to this fuel subsidy is affecting every passenger. I came to the park, and formally when you come to the park, in just like 30 minutes the vehicle is filled and everybody moves to his own destination. But presently now I've spent like going to 2 hours to get a vehicle to be filled. It's just because of the increments. People cannot meet up their doings because we are managing already before this subsidy, and now it's shocking every one of us.
I'm into commercial driving from Zaria to Yola and some northeastern state. Before the fuel subsidy removal, I used to spend 17,000 naira to get full tank, but now I need 47,000 naira to do so. We want the government to see the need of easing the hardship. Government had argued that subsidy removal will free up resources for the state to provide infrastructure and other essential services. Silas Lawan, Trust TV News, Yola.
To Lagos now, where the World Donor Day was marked with the State Transfusion Service encouraging Nigerians to give blood to save lives. The day was marked at the State Secretariat at Lausa Ikeja. The report.
Despite the heavy downpour, people gathered to commemorate the 2023 World Donor Day with the theme, Give Blood, Give Plasma, Share Life, Share Often. Speaking to journalists at the Lausa Secretariat, Lagos State Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu, represented by Permanent Secretary of the State, Ministry of Health, Dr. Olusegun Oboye, encouraged people to give blood and share life.
The point is to encourage people to give blood. That when you give blood, you share life. And so, like I said, giving blood is almost like giving an organ for transplant, but it's an organ that replaces itself very quickly. So it's always available for you to give again and again. And blood that you don't really need. You can give a pint of blood, it doesn't do you any harm, but it can be the difference between life and death for other people.
From the Lagos State University, Professor Dosunmu Adedoyin says that Nigerians should trust and have confidence and build a social support system whereby youths can come and donate voluntarily to those who are about to lose their lives.
It's for those who are donating to try and donate like 2 times in a year regularly. You can donate from the age of 18 to the age of 65. As long as you don't have any other disease, you can always donate. And this will keep you fit, because you know that in 3-4 months' time, you are going to donate again. You try to keep fit. You try to avoid infections, because you want to qualify to give safe blood to save somebody else's life.
The Director of Pathology and Laboratory Science in the Ministry, Dr. Babafemi Thomas, said the best way for government to encourage citizens to give blood to others is through education.
When you actually educate people and they understand the value and they understand that there's really nothing fetish to do about it, you actually realize that a lot of people have a good heart and they are willing to give this product. You understand? It's just that barrier of that fetish that they are thinking that maybe their blood products will be eventually used for ritual purposes that will work against their own success in life. So I think that's the major thing, education.
Medical professionals believe that giving blood keeps one fit and healthy.
In other news, the Nigeria Customs Service Kebbi Area Command has handed over 414 sacks of donkey meat and skin seized from smugglers to the Nigeria Agricultural Quarantine Services. The Customs Area Controller of Kebbi Command, Ben Oramalugo, while handing over the seized item to officials of the quarantine services at the command headquarters in Birni Kebbi, says it was in the spirit of interagency collaboration. It says the items were about to be smuggled out of the country when they were seized by the command. Customs had in May intercepted a truckload of donkey meat and skin en route to the Kamba area of Kebbi State for onward movement out of the country. On the foreign scene, fighting has rocked several cities in Western Sudan on Wednesday following escalation of the country's almost 2-month-old war, as a regional governor was killed after publicly blaming the deaths of civilians on the country's paramilitary force. The conflict between the army and the paramilitary Rapid Support Forces has caused a humanitarian crisis in Khartoum, as well as major cities in the Kordofan and Darfur regions. The widening footprint of fighting threatens to prolong the violence and draw in armed groups, particularly those with tribal affiliations as well as external actors. West Darfur State Governor Khamis Abubakar was killed on Wednesday, according to an armed group he commanded, hours after he accused the RSF and allied militias of, quote, genocide. No details on his death has been made available. Activists say 1,100 people have been killed since the conflict began in mid-April this year in the westernmost city of El Geneina, the capital of West Darfur. In sports, Gambia beat South Sudan 3-2 in Swiss to keep alive their hopes of qualifying to the 2023 Africa Cup of Nations as substitute Hamza Barry scored in added time. The 5-goal thriller saw South Sudan rally twice from a goal down to draw 2-2 with a 91st minute goal from Peter Chol. Barry's goal late on saw the Scorpions earn victory and move second in Group G with 9 points, 3 clear of Congo, who play leaders Mali in the other group match. With 3 points, South Sudan's dream of a maiden qualification to the Cup of Nations have been dashed and will now only play the last group game as a formality. And that's our package on the news update at this hour. Feel free to join our social media platforms across Facebook, Instagram, and our live stream on YouTube. My name is Abdullahi Ahmed. Thank you for watching.